afternoon, all. Welcome to the webinar series or the seminar series. We'll give it a few more minutes as people continue to join. Thank you. Hi, Tong. I think you have your hand up, but before we get started, did you have a question? Oh.
I accidentally raised my hand.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a question. Thank you for asking.
No problem. All right, thanks. That was good practice for me to try the unmute features. That's good. All right, I see that it's about 2 after, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Water Board Seminar Series. My name is Jarma Bennett. I'm a Senior Water Resource Control Engineer with the Office of Information Management and Analysis at the Water Boards. Thank you for attending today's seminar. We started these seminars. This is the second one in our series. This month we are doing weekly webinars. Starting next month, we will be doing generally monthly webinars on the last Thursday of each month at noon. If you want to know what we're planning, you can please check out the College of Water Informatics events page, and I'll drop a link to that in the chat soon, so you can check out what we have upcoming. We will have a question and answer period after Rafael Maestro gives his talk, and so enter your questions into the question and answer box and we'll address those. And we'll get on to our speaker, who is Rafael Maestro, as I mentioned. He is an economist and chief data scientist with the Office of Information Management and Analysis. Prior to joining the Water Board in 1999, he worked for the Spanish Ministry of Environment and for the European Union. Rafa is a data liberator and believes that information-based management and science-based decisions require the right data in the right format at the right time. And he also thinks that transparency in data and information also improves the efficiency and effectiveness of government organizations and holds agencies accountable for their results. So with all those beliefs in data, he's going to talk about how we can view data in Tableau here at the Water Boards. So here, take it away, Rafa.
Thank you so much, Jarma. I mean, you forgot to say that we've been working together for, you and I, like for 15 years, dealing with these issues. And I myself been working for the Water Board for more than 20 years. So we've been experiencing a lot of issues and see the evolution from where we started 15, 20 years ago from where we are today, even though some of the data that we use today still goes back to 2020. I mean, to 2022, 20, yeah. no, it was 1999,
Yeah.
2000. Oh my God, my numbers are just starting to spin. I'm getting too old. Anyway, so, but I really want to follow up on Joaquin's presentation, because I think he was very inspirational in many ways and encouraging us, highlighting how important is data for an organization like ours, and how we actually using the data can really help with the, I have to share my screen first, I guess. How using data in a more effective way can improve the way we actually work. So again, thank you for the new creation of the College of Water Informatics. And I want to also mention that March is Water Data Month, so we should be celebrating and drinking every day. But I want to put things a little bit in context. When the Water Board adopted in 2018 the Open Data Resolution, it was basically based on 5 principles. So to make data accessible, to understand quality and integrity, to improve data literacy, to use data to govern, and to govern our data. And I think today, these events that we are putting together really is going to help the number 3 and number 4, which is to improve data literacy and to use actual information to make decisions. So today I'm going to try to cover all this. I know it's a lot, but I'm probably going to go very fast. So because we are recording this, we can always go back to it. And also the slides will be available. And a lot of the slides have hyperlinks where you can actually navigate to the actual sites that I'm going to be linking to. So we're going to try to use the Tableau server. What is Tableau server? What is Tableau prep? How do you connect to spatial data sets? How do you build visualizations and share the visualization that you create? And how do you the most important for me, how you connect to data sets and open data sources. So I want to start with really addressing we talk about the data lifecycle all the time. For me, I simplified. It's really about the collection, storage, access that data that is stored. Then you need to do some transformations to the data, and then finally you can start analyzing the data and visualizing so you can actually communicate what the data means. Is this data is transforming data into information? And I want to focus on 3 things. We need data, we need tools, and we need the users. And probably the users are the most important part of these 3 elements of the same thing. And the users are basically you are the users. And we've been tracking the users of Tableau, for example. This is June 2020. And we had 24 users at that time. We have many more users. And in fact, we can have all the Waterboard staff to become a users. And this is really what I'm here today. I'm here today to try to excite you about using Tableau for the things you need to do. So let's start with the data. Many of you may know that we have a very complex data systems or data structure. This is what we call the Tuna Can Diagram, which this is very old too, by the way, but it's still we use it because it's still relevant. It really shows you the complexity of the systems that they are not really connected to each other. And they may use different data standards, data values, data dictionaries, and rules that. So it makes it very difficult to actually to use all this data into one single platform. So one of the challenges we had is actually to transform this data to make this data in databases accessible to staff. So what we did many years ago is also to start creating data transformations and convert them into flat files. So we convert relational databases where we store the data into a flat file format that is much easier for the users to actually to manipulate, use, filter, and work with. Today, we have multiple repositories where you can actually access data, and all these things have hyperlinks. So Some of this data is we're making it publicly available, so anybody has access to it. You go to data.ca.gov, for example, and search for water. You will see many data sets that we are already making public, not just the Water Board, but also our partner agencies like the Department of Water Resources. We also have internal flat files that you can, most of you already know how to use them and access, like Seaweeds and Smarts, eRIMS, SSO, Beachwatch, and many others. But we have internal reports where you can actually filter the data and produce extracts. That actually includes GeoTracker, Gamma, eRIMS, Seaweeds, Drink, Seeding, etc. And then we actually have the ability to connect directly to some of the servers that we have, like the SQL5 or SQL3, or some of the things that some of the staff know how to actually connect to that. And then the Water Board, the GIS unit has been maintaining APIs for a library of REST APIs for a library of spatial resources. Again, all this, you have links to it. You can link to them if you're not aware of them. This can serve you as a reference. So then let's start talking about tools. So there are two different types of tools. There are tools to access the data, and there are tools actually to transform the data, and there are tools to visualize the data. So these are examples of tools that probably all staff have access to the servers, where you can build your own SQL statements, where you can run reports on your own. This requires high level of training and understanding on what to do and how to do it. And why is it important to do this extract, transform, and load of data? Well, because the data in the tables in relational databases that we have, they have a lot of things in them. I mean, they really have to capture things that databases need, but the users may not need. And at the same time, it may follow certain data schema or data structure or value values that are not user-friendly. So a lot of these ETLs help actually to do these transformations and create what we call these curated data sets, where you don't need how to do SQL statements and things like that, but you can actually start using them right away. So then we have tools that we call business intelligence tools. Believe it or not, Microsoft Excel, it's a business intelligence tool. So you know how to use pivot tables or power pivot. It's even more capable. But I use Excel myself for many years until I discovered pivot tables, and then I started discovering other tools that are even more powerful. Or ArcGIS contract that we have is also a data visualization and a business intelligence tool. But then we have some others like ArcSine, Microsoft Power BI, and statistical tools that really are accessible to all the staff today, with different levels of, and I think we're going to be in the next sessions that we're going to be having, we're going to be talking about how to use all those other tools. So let's talk about Tableau. So in Tableau, we have right now, we have a license. We put it on the server where all the staff can use, but we also have, like what we call the experts, that we have 15 creator licenses that we can expand in the future if we see that there's a demand for it. And the creators can actually do more sophisticated extract, transform, load operations and publish data sources and do all the things that, but in most cases, the explorers can actually do almost the same things, extend they have less privileges. But we can work with that if there is a user that really needs to have to get a creator license. So the definition of Tableau is just a visual analytics engine that makes it easier to create interactive visualizations and dashboards that connect, that kind of like, and what we call interactive is that you can really combine tables with graphs and maps, and then you can use one to filter the other, to create groupings, to create or to basically aggregate or disaggregate the data in any shape or form that you want. And again, you can integrate the data from multiple data sources. So you can have data in one database and another database, and you can join those two tables, and all of a sudden you can start, combining those data resources into your own visualization that can actually tell the stories in a more effective way. So I always want to start with the idea that really to start a data visualization, you had to know your data. I mean, if you don't know your data, you're going to have problems anyway. So, but if you are familiar with the program and you know how the data is stored, or you've been using the interface of the Oracle production database that we use, then you should be familiar with the values that show in each one of the data elements. And then you can start doing things. I want to calculate something. I want to do a calculation based on these criteria. And then you can start actually doing some kind of like a more sophisticated things. I have an example that I use all the time, is that we have the date that something occurs, but we want to present the data by fiscal year, but the database doesn't really have the fiscal year for every single record that we maintain. So there is a calculation that you can do that is actually pretty complicated, but it works really well, which will transform any date into a fiscal year date. So it puts you, so that when you want to visualize the data, you can group them by fiscal year that way very effectively. The same way I say fiscal year can be a water year or anything you want to do. And then you can build your visualization. I mean, if you can imagine it, you can build it. You can think, I want to do something that connects these maps with these graphs, whatever. Then once you can, if you can visualize it yourself, you can actually build it in Tableau. And then the last thing I like is that you can publish it and sharing it with the public or with other staff yourself. You don't really need to engage IT, or you could just, you have control over the entire process yourself. So again, some people, there are some complaints about Tableau, is that it really is the screen. I mean, the images are not very sharp, or the graphics are not very sharp, and you cannot really customize things like that you can actually do with RSigny and other tools. But I think it for the most of users, this really is a way of starting using building visualizations very quickly. Because in the end, the idea is to communicate effective information, and there is no one single way of doing it. This is just a lot of examples that I have. I've been building visualizations using Tableau myself for the last 4 years, and I have like 350 of them. Some of them are public, some of them are not. These are just examples, but I'm going to go through some of the examples later. So what is the Tableau server? So now Tableau server, you can, if you have a state computer, or you have a VPN into the servers at the waterboard, then you can actually start using Tableau server. It uses the Active Directory, so it may ask you to use the same credentials or enter the same password that you have to log into the waterboard's computers. But from that point forward, you should have full access to it. So what I want to do is I want to start, trying to build some connecting some of these databases that we have. So here's the link to the access. We have two servers at the waterboards. We have the internal server, that is just you need to do it internally, and then we have the public one. But to access the public one, we are right now you need permissions to use it, whereas the internal one you already have permission. So let's go through what does it look like? Well, the navigation is pretty simple. When you go to the home page, it looks like this. And then you can select, you can start exploring the different sites. We have organized the projects or these folders into published data sources, and then we have a folder for each organization, and then we also have another category which is for those programs that cross organizations, like SAFER or things like that, that really that we want to collaborate among different divisions and programs. So the data sources are organized into two. We have data sources that are the geospatial or spatial data sources. Those are maps and polygons and things like that. A lot of them are connected directly to the state geoportal. So they are live connections. So if things change in the state geoportal, it will be updated here immediately. And then we have all the other data sources organized by divisions. I mean, drinking water has its own data sets, water quality, water rights, surface water quality monitoring, and then we have another catch-all, which will include probably financial assistance and other programs like administration. then we have organized by organizations, and then within each organization we can create projects for staff directly, where that staff will be the administrator of those folders, and they can actually do basically create the permissions and do anything they want there. So I'm going to do something that is always risky to do in an environment like this, which is to create, show you how easy it is to create a visualization that it would take me, I'm not kidding, a month to do 10 years ago. And now I'm going to try to do this in less than 10 minutes. So you can see the mechanic, how this works, the mechanic. So I'm going to start by clicking on the Tableau server. And I'm already connected to, so it knows who I am. It's basically a web browser. And in here you can see the what I was showing you before, all the data sources there. So we're going to start looking at the data sources, and I want to start looking for a map. I want a map of, because I want to, when I filter the data, I want to show everything by a map. So I want to look for something like the offices, like the regional board offices. This is something we see all the time, but we have all. I mean, you can play with it. There's a lot of different ways of looking at this spatial, like hack 6, 12s, and 8s, and things like that. So it can be used for different programs. But let's just click on the regional board offices. And here it's telling me, what this data set contains. And it has the number, the name of the office, even the phone number, the contact, and it has something that's called the geometry. And the geometry is really what we're going to use to actually to show the map. So let's just create a workbook. And in this workbook, we're just going to add the geometry that we have here. We're just going to put it in the canvas. And here's a map of regional board offices. Now, they all look the same. So let's just look at the different, maybe we need the regional board names. We can put the colors there. So now the regional board offices are going to be by name. But that's the regional board. I want to actually use the office, because we have different names, the offices, and this is the map of all regional board. Let's just call it that. If I can type. Okay. So here's your regional board, and there's information about this that you can put in the labels. You can just say, well, which we have a naming convention for these offices. So we can just actually add those things so you can actually visualize it in the. That's not what I want. You put the name in there. Okay, so now we have the names and the number system that we have. So that's great, but what do I want? What do I do with this now? It's great. I have a map. It gives me some details when I hover over. But so let's find some of the data that we can relate to the regional board offices. So I'm going to create. I'm going to connect to the data sources, and I'm going to add a new data source. And what I want to do is something about violations, because I hear that violations are really important. If I can type violations. So there's this Seaweeds violations file. Well, let's connect to that. And by the way, this is a live connection, so I think it's updated every day. So the data that we're seeing here is actually connected to the Seaweeds database. So here's the data I uploaded, and it shows all these different attributes. And let's start by connecting, because I want to make sure that these two data sources are connected, they are linked together. And the way that Tableau connects or joins different data sets is by name. So they have to have the same name. So I'm just going to go and do something that is a little unconventional, but it's a workaround. I'm just going to copy this name. Go here. Actually, yeah. And I'm going to rename this one. I'm going to name it the same. And when I do that, in these data sources, I should be connected. Okay, I tried this before and it worked. Okay. We may need to do something later. So I'm gonna go and try to start using this Seaweeds data evaluations flat file. This is a very large data set. It has more than 500,000 records. So we're gonna be putting this evaluation ID into our column. So we're gonna be reading it, and it's gonna take a few seconds to upload the data. Okay, and what we want to do really here is we want to count the number of records. We don't want to show the records. We just want to really count how many records we have here. And we have 800,000. And then we can start looking at the different what does this data look like. So for example, we can put the evaluation type in there, and let's add the totals. So there are 800,000 violations, and this is the distribution of these violations. And then we can actually start adding filters to it. Like, for example, we can put the filter for regional boards. We can also, we wanna break this down into fiscal years. I want to also put the fiscal year as a filter, and I want to remove this fiscal year. It doesn't make much sense. So we can see the data for different years. We have some data for 2020. I think this is not this data set is not fully updated. And so once we do that, well, this is great. What other filters do I want to use for this? Here it is. Well, once I have this set up, I can duplicate it, and I'm going to convert this into a different type of graph. I want to show like a trends. So here's your trend. Here are the trends for every year, and I could filter by regional board or by fiscal year or even by evaluation type. Let's do the evaluation type. Here. Okay, so when you hover over, you can actually see the number of evaluations for each year. I can actually do a pie chart. Now that I'm here, I can do the same thing again, and I'm going to convert this into a pie chart. But I don't want the fiscal year. I want them all together. Okay, and I can make this a little bigger, and then I can add the evaluation type, and I can add the count of evaluations. So we have some kind of information about what these things are about. And let's just remove that because. So I'm building all these objects independently using the same data source, and now I want to put them all together into a visualization. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to start with my map, which was my seed number 1. And here's my pretty map of all the regional board offices. I probably don't need these to go along with it. And then I also want to put that table here. that I created. And then I want to also display the graph underneath. And I like these colors, so I'm going to keep them somewhere. And I'm building these evaluations. Let's put these. So this is, it's like a building, you can move things around, make them smaller, you can make them fit. It depends on how you want to visualize. This is actually very powerful in terms of, making your visualization make sense. And now I'm going to add our pretty pie chart also to this one. And I want to make this, that is, it takes the entire view. Okay, so now, I just built a visualization that if you're familiar with enforcement program, we have done this in the annual enforcement report for the last 10 years. And just to do this will have taken me, I'm not kidding, a month of data transformation manipulation, and now is actually live connections to the actual data set. But the beauty of this is that you can use that map that we had before and use that as a filter. So we're gonna select use as a filter. And then when I click on any of these regional board offices, see what happens. The data is now changing for each regional board, not just the table, but my graph and my bar chart. All of those things are changing. So all of a sudden I can navigate, I can use Tableau to navigate the data and to start looking at why are some regional boards so different? Like in region 8, why is the structure, the types of violations and the number of violations is changing so much over time? So then we can actually start having a conversation about what does the data look like, and how can we use it to actually establish priorities and evaluate results if the enforcement program is actually have an impact on the number of violations or not. But then you want to share this. I mean, first of all, I will save it, and it's going to ask me where do you want to save it. I can save it in my folder, or can save it anywhere that I have permissions to do it. So in my case, I have a site and the Office of Information Management Analysis, and this is my site. So I'm gonna call it a violations test. Which my plan is to erase this later. So so it's already safe. And here it is. I'm gonna close it, and then I'm gonna try to find it under my site. Organizations, information management analysis, Rafa test site, and I can sort it by modify, and then I click on my visualization, and I can click on a dashboard, for example. This is the dashboard that we created. And this dashboard, this is the way the actual users will see it. And what I can do here, I can just say, click share. And I can add a bunch of people. I can set permissions that anybody can see, or only they can see by invitation. In this case, I'm gonna select Jarma. Jarma, you're gonna be my biggie. So Jarma is gonna be. I'm gonna share this with Jarma. With I can actually add all different names to it, and Jarma will receive. Let's include myself in it. So then Jarma will receive an email where I can actually put some comments there, and Jarma can now have access to this data set. There's something funky there. So I can go back and myself I can edit it. And any changes that this is like, what is that? Yeah. So we erase it. So any changes you're making here, there are live changes. The same format that we have here, we can use this as we can create an embed code that we can publish this on any website, and it will be actually connected directly to that data. So we think it's actually very powerful, and I think staff can now build their own analysis and visualizations. There's some statistics you can apply it. I mean, I'm not going to get it. This is not a training, a Tableau training event, but really it's for me to try to show you how simple it is to actually to start using data sets that before were actually very difficult to work with. And I have many of these examples of things that I built myself. Like this one is, we did this for the SAFER program for the human right to water, to identify those systems that were at risk. And this is available to the public. We have it on our website. The beauty of it is that you can click on any of these systems, you can filter them, you can find it by county, but if you click on any of these systems, it will actually zoom in into the system so you can see the community that is affected. And it also gives you a little bit of status of where we are. Like they are not receiving financial systems, the evaluations they have is 1 to 3 TCP. They have evaluations since 2018. The median household income is $34,000. So we can actually bring the data from multiple different sources that is just into one single visualization that tells the story. Another one, and this is something I'm very excited because I work with this this week. We just created a extract, transform, load process that digs directly into the drinking water program water chemistry results. This is 39 million records, and I'm going to say it again, it's 39 million data points that you have access with this tool. And what this is showing is the nitrate monitoring that is done for all the different sources for the city of Livermore. The colors here are by the sources of not all the sources is the water that's been distributed, and we are comparing this with the actual MCL. So these are the values about the MCL, which is 45 milligrams per liter, and these are all the values that monitor. And you can see here it's only getting the data until 2016. And why is that? Well, when I look at the data, I say, well, if I select more than one chemical, like also nitrate, it happens that they were monitoring nitrate as NO3, and now they are monitoring nitrate as N. And again, I'm not a chemist, I'm an economist, but I can understand that there's going to be a difference. And it happens that they were monitoring up to this point for nitrate as NO3, and the MCL is 45, and from this point forward, where they were actually testing for nitrate as N, and the MCL is 10. But you can actually see the two values. If I select different units, I mean, this is all they all depend on each other. You select one parameter, it's only going to show the units for that parameter. I have another public water system ID. I brought this down. That is maybe interesting. 1500543. Okay, so this one. And when we select that one, let's see what happens. So you can actually look at every single water system in the state for any parameter or group of parameters that have been monitored for. I have not seen anything like that done before because it really has all the information into one single location. I've been asked to actually add more filters, like adding the water district or the section, or so it's more narrow to the offices that we have, the way we are organized. But I think this is actually a very powerful way to start looking at the data and identify those systems that are at risk, either because they are exceeding the MCL or because they are very close to exceeding the MCL. Let's go to another one. So this one, we use data that it was not in any databases. This is an annual, the Division of Financial Assistance collects every few years data about the wastewater rates that the systems are charging. So we want to do some kind of analysis and make this data public. And this data set is public information, and we have data since 1988. It was a work of compiling all these different years and put them all together. I was actually very excited as an economist to see this, being able to build these trends for every community. And here you can actually click on any county and see what is the average value for that county. We also have this one for water rights. What is exciting about this one, and I call this like the curtailment tool. So why I call this a curtailment tool? Well, it's because here is showing the year the water right was approved, which is what we use for seniority. So how many water rights were licensed or permits for each one of the years. You can see the last years we didn't do many of these allocations. And you can see the face actually here is how much the face value. The face value is how much water they can take every year. And these two lines underneath, and the colors again is permit for red, a license for blue. These ones is the cumulative. So as we moved to 1961, we were allocating all that water for the entire state, and I think now the value is like we have allocated of 13,437 acre-foot of water in the water rights program, which is kind of interesting. But what I think is cool about this is that you can actually click on any Hack 6, any of these water sets, and then start understanding the value, how those water rights are distributed for that particular water set. So why do I call this the curtailment? Well, because if we know during the drought, for example, that we need to reduce the number of users and we have to use seniority for that, then we can actually start saying, we know from this point forward, if we want to save this much water, we're going to have to curtail all these water rights. Sorry, it just refresh it. So we need to curtail all these water rights from this point forward. Okay. So that's a way of actually, a very quick way of filtering or identifying if we want to save that much water in that particular water set. That these are the water right holders that we can that we need to curtail, and I can build a list with this, or we can I mean this is all, we can build navigation to all this data the way I showed you before.
So, Rafa, we have several questions about data available, so maybe we can take a pause and
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot of these visualizations, and I don't have to spend all the time doing that. But they are all the links to the visualizations are in the PowerPoint, so you can access them later if you want to.
Yeah, and Anna also provided a link to your profile. So
yeah, perfect.
They're there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you want to start with questions now? That's perfect. That's great.
Okay, thanks. A question was, can we upload our own Excel data once it has been manipulated and analyzed? And I know this is for our setup is a little different than if you were using Tableau Public. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah. So let's go to so when we are in this one, I can upload a file. I mean, we can upload new files. To do this, you have to probably you will need a creator license. But if there's a file that you need to upload to publish as a data source, you can send me the file and I can publish it for you.
We are working on getting more creator people that have the creator licenses throughout the water board, so more people have those resources.
If they want to share those files with other staff, if they just want to use their own Excel spreadsheet, they can just do this: create a workbook. And when the first is going to ask me, because I have a creator license, I can actually look at resources on this side and actually have these connectors, which takes me to the servers where I can actually start like have access to the entire water boards. Data sets. So here we have, I can access the databases, go to the report databases, and here are all the tables that we have access to. And you can do that if you are you have a creator license. Okay, so here's all the Seaweeds data sets. If you are not, let's just create another one. You can still create a workbook, and you just connect to files, and you can just upload a file from your computer, and you can start using that file directly. You don't have to publish the data to start using it. You can use your own files.
Okay, great, thank you. Then there was a participant provided a link to some Coursera training, so it's not a question, but just for others to be aware of that there's training available through Coursera, and we have some information provided on our Tableau SharePoint site that is in the question and answered under the answered section. And then there's a question about, does the server provide excuse me, access to Gamma municipal wells?
We will need to create the connection to the Gamma municipal wells. If you can tell me how to access the data, I can make it available. This is what we're going one program at a time. I have been uploading some Gamma resources, but Gamma has we don't have directly access to the tables in the database, so we can use the reports that they have built in. So we still need to work with Gamma to build direct connections to the database.
Okay. And then along the same lines, is there access to a WEHA's EnviroScreen 3.0 DAC map?
The 3.0 or the 4.0? Because there's the new one, no?
The new one is out in draft still, so I think the 3.0 is still the official current, but it's, yeah, you're right, it's upcoming for the 4.0.
You can download the file yourself and use it in your own visualization, like I showed you before. But we can actually, if you request that, we can try to build direct connections to the APIs for the data. Yeah. I mean, ideally, if the data is in the open data portal, we can build the direct connections. That's the best way.
So just to reiterate what I think I heard you say is, if you want published data that refreshes ongoing, then that needs to be published by someone with a creator license. But if you just want to use a one-off Excel spreadsheet, anybody here at the water boards can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. And then final question of what we have right now is, how can updates to data be submitted?
Okay, so if the data is in databases, will be automatically updated. If the data is in a spreadsheet or something like that, then we will need to refresh it manually. It can be done. It's the same thing. We just need to do this manually.
And then Anna provided a link to data.ca.gov, the open data portal for the state, which Rafa mentioned connecting to. Mm-hmm. So those are the questions, if you want to, that we have right now, if you want to go back to showing.
Yeah.
Items.
So I'm just like showing here, for example, we did this in June 2019. I will do things differently today, but we use the service areas that we have in drinking water program. And at that time, we wanted to identify how many systems, what is the population that don't have access to safe water. So because some of them are schools and don't really have a service area, so we needed to combine these points with polygons. So here, when you select, you go to a county, in this case is the Fresno County, you can see the information about the individual schools or things that we don't have the service area, and then also showing the service area of those water systems. And I color coded here based on if they were in the human right to water list out of compliance, or they were not in the human right to water and they were supposed to be assumed to be in compliance. And here is the total amount of population that was out of compliance. When you highlight, you hover over, the Fresno, it actually shows you the data for just that county, which will be 67,000 people even have safe access to safe water in that particular county. So I think it's a very powerful tool to combine a lot, answers a lot of different questions, like the where, the how much, and the status. I have another one here. This is I wanted to show this one because this is actually a very cool functionality that Tableau can do, which is when you, these are all a map of all the sewage spills in the state. And we have a sewage spill report as public in Seaweeds. So when you click on any of these sewage spills, it will give you the Seaweeds report like this fast. I mean, it was like I cannot believe it that it was actually giving me the information this quickly, because you can just click on any of these sewage spills and look at these things. You can also create this hyperlink that you can look at this operational report. So you can hyperlink it to any other data sources, like in this case is Seaweeds. And also you can associate the location of the spill with an actual map. So if I can click randomly, it's going to show me the locations of these spills and actually look at how fast this works. So you want to see what's going on here, and you can click on that spill, and it's in the middle of the desert. You have a better idea of what's going on. For example, that one. But that's what the spill location, where the spill location occur in that particular address. And in some cases, probably not accurate in terms of what the location that they provide to us. So this one is interesting because it's also a very large data set, and using gamma data. One of the questions was about using a groundwater quality monitoring. This is the monitoring data, but for arsenic in the state. I think I haven't updated this since 2019, so it's not completely up to date, but really it shows you all the monitoring, and the red dots are the ones who are exceeding the MCL for drinking water, and what was the maximum value in each year. So the table is showing that, but when you click on any of these data points, the graph in the table is going to actually be for that particular data point. What I like about this one is that you can do more than that. You can actually say, I don't want a data point. I want a group of wells. I want a group like these groups here, this well here. So the data that is giving me is for that group of wells. That made more sense in Tulare basins and Fresno, where you can actually see the fluctuations and how many of these data points are exceed the MCL. I think in this case, gamma, I can filter by different programs, like the division of drinking water data sets. That's what it looks like, or the Department of Water Resources, or the actual gamma data. But again, it applies to those, only to those wells. So in the end, gamma didn't have that many of the data points. But again, it's a way of starting navigating the data, and I don't work in the program, so I'm just trying to answer my own questions about how to use the data. This one is more tracking the inspections that staff in the stormwater program were doing. So you can select the staff name and the year. And this is a calendar. So it shows you how many days they were out of the office and how many inspections they did each one of those days. I mean, some of them, they did 30 inspections in one single day. And this is the locations of those inspections and the type of inspections. They were construction, industrial, or other facilities. I think this is more internal for internal uses, but it also help us understand, the workload associated with doing inspections. This one is much more complicated. It's like trying to do more statistical analysis. This is also using groundwater data, and the questions that can be used BTEX as a surrogate for naphthalene. So we were comparing benzene and toluene with ethylbenzene and xylenes. I actually tried to use, get the data and see what it looks like. And there was a lot of data points, as you can see in the graphs. But it's another way of manipulating and actually trying to start understanding to make better use of the data that we already have. I mean, this is information that we already collected. So I want to end the presentation with more references on how to access the Tableau server. You all have, all water board staff have access to it with an Explorer account. But if you want more like instructions, detailed instructions, a step-by-step guide on how to start using it, you go to this link. or you can just go directly to the quick start guide. Again, or if asking for a password, you are using the Active Directory that we have that is the same password and login that you have to access your computer. Well, that's about it. I think I did pretty well with time. Thank
I just
you
had
very much. Any other
one more
questions?
request. If you could go back to the internal server and show people again where they can see the published data sets, so they know what they have to work with.
Okay, so when we go to this internal side, it's gonna you go to Tableau int, you go like this, you type Tableau in waterboard.ca.gov, it's gonna take you to this site. It's gonna take you to the home. For me, it's going to this one. So you go to the data sources created, and then you have the geospatial data sources, or you have all of the data sources, and that is organized by programs. Like the water rights program has all these flat files, all these different data sources that they can use. And the drinking water program, we are working adding more and more every day. And I think the other one that we have is the water quality, which is the Seaweeds and enforcement actions. We still need to add a lot of data in there.
The modified date, is that the date that you published it, or is that the last refresh date, the modified date there on the right?
There's some ways of looking at this. You can some actions. You can see the permissions, or also the you can download the data. There's a lot of things with it. I think is the data is uploaded, or I modified the access to it. Like this one, we updated. Yeah, no, this is it was the date the source was modified, because I updated this one today.
Okay, so there'll be more recent data in it, even
Yeah.
though it says the 13th of November. Great.
Yeah, no, it's when we get into the details, there's a lot of functionality that we can manage this. It really can help us organize the data and create data sets that are more useful. Like for the drinking water program, I've been working on this that water chemistry data. And you can see the last one, it's March 11, which was yesterday or today. So we are updating all this information on a regular basis. Yeah, this is actually a live connection that updates every night.
Great.
It's 39 million records. So I can quickly show you what a extract transform load that we use using Tableau Prep. I think some stuff may be interesting in looking at that. But this one, for example, it shows you the complexity of the connections that we had to build to extract that water quality chemistry data from the drinking water program. And these are the tables that need to be connected with each other to get to that output, to create that flat file. But we can do it ourselves, and we don't need to have IT involvement, and we can modify any way we want. I think that's another things that once you get familiar with the data sets and you know what you need to do, you may want to create your own create your own logic on how you want to filter and dice and slice your data. And then when it's tested and it's curated, then you can publish as a data source for everybody else to use. That's actually one of the things that we really like about Tableau, is that I can publish a workbook. You can then go and copy it and modify it any way you want. Like the one I just created today. That is right here. So I can go here and start, and I change the permissions. I can just allow everybody to actually erase it, copy or remove. Right now, everybody can overwrite, can make a copy of it, or they can. It's basically I open that workbook that I created to make it accessible to everybody. I can actually restrict it. I can just go say, no, I don't want this. I don't want anybody to erase my work. So then I can actually change that. Once you are the project administrator, when I give you a project, you will be in charge of your own to control the use of your work. And I think that really is very powerful.
Yeah,
Because
it is.
because we can share at the same time, we can share our work, and people can take over from there and help each other.
Yes, that is definitely a powerful thing in Tableau, to be able to share your work and like you said, help each other. So on that uplifting note, I think we'll wrap it up as we're almost out of time. I would like to thank you, Rafa, very much for showing us Tableau and how to access it as a water board employee. And I would like to thank all the attendees for tuning in and engaging in the talk today. We are always looking for new speakers and ways to improve the seminar. So please use the survey link that Chad provided in the chat as the Q&A was starting. And I also provided that link to the events webpage on the COWI, the College of Water Informatics webpage, so you can look at what's coming up next. And we do have another talk next Thursday. And we are recording, or we did record today's seminar, and that'll be posted in the events page as well. So again, thank you. And we hope to see you next week at the next seminar. Have a great day.
Thank you. March is Water Data Month.